Stampers, back with another video tutorial. This is the tutorial for the projects that we made at September Stamp Club. We had a fall theme for that month, and we used the For All Things stamp set. We used the gold buttons, and we used the Color Me Autumn Designer Series paper. Love the fact that there's purple in that. We also threw in a couple other things. We used the Mossy Meadow ribbon, some linen thread, and I think that's about it. We used all the colors from the DSP in our cards so that everything would coordinate, but these are the three main things that we used from the holiday catalog. So let's give you a look at our projects. The first one I'm going to show you and give you some measurements, and I'll write them in the subtitles in the video, and they'll be on the blog post so you can take a look. But these ones are already made up. This was the first card we did, and I call it the reverse card because we put it together a little differently. The inner flap is the one that opens, not the base. So usually for a base, we cut, half of an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. But for this one, this is just a square of the Blackberry Bliss. So it's the standard size, the 4 1/4 by 5.5, but it's one square. We're not folding it anywhere. Okay. Then we took our Whisper White, and the Whisper White is the piece that is longer. So that's 4 1/4 to fit in, or sorry, 5 1/4. So instead of the 5.5, we're doing the 5 1/4, but we're going to go all the way out to 8. Okay, so that we can fold that over. So the top piece is what's actually folding to create our card. Okay. So this is 4 1/4 by 5.5. This is 8 by 5 1/4. And this little piece of DSP right in here is still the 5 1/4, but it's just a 2-inch thick piece. And I use one of the Blackberry Bliss patterns just to coordinate with the cardstock. You can use whichever color you like. And then we use some of the stamps for the For All Things stamp set. And we layered up a little bit, threw a little bit of crumb cake in there in the background, and then I used the colors right from the DSP pack, the Crushed Curry and the Cajun Craze for the leaves, and then for the stamps as well with my markers. And what we did is we stamped all of our leaves close to the edge, and then we cut out all the little divots on the leaves to give it a nice texture, and so that that little piece of DSP will show through as well. So that was the first project that we did. I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty quick and easy too. Lots of fussy cutting, as my stampers called it, but I think they enjoyed the card too. So there you have it. There's the first project. Now the second one we're going to put together today. Oh, there we go. It's a little different. This is the one we're going to put together. Hello Fall. A little zigzag for the card. Easy peasy, right? So this is still your standard cardstock size, so we're going to go with the 8.5 by 11, and we're just going to cut it in half. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do with this one, and this is our soft suede, which is one of the colors from the DSP pack, the Color Me Autumn. So the first thing you're going to do is just simply fold it in half like you normally would when you're making a card. Once you've folded this in half, you're going to take this top piece and you're going to fold it back on itself so that it's half of the card front again. So you end up with a zigzag. Okay. Then I'll give you the measurements for the DSP and the vanilla. We've got a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and that's the 4 by 5 1/4, just like we would cut for any front of the card. Then I've got a little piece of DSP here that's 1.5 by 4, just to give it some dimension along the edge. And then this one here is 2.5 by 4. So all the same height, just different widths, so that when you close it up, you have a little bit of everything to give it some dimension. Okay, so now we've cut a piece of the Crushed Curry, and the Crushed Curry is 3.5 by 3.5, and the inner piece is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. So 3.5, 3 1/4, and you're going to layer those up. And I use the Project Life corner rounder to corner the edges. And this is one of the ones I used as a sample at Stamp Club, so you can see I started stamping here. And again, it's all from the For All Things stamp set. And we use the crumb cake for the background. And then for the wheat, I used the marker. I used the Crushed Curry marker, and I stamped it once and then stamped it off. So you've got two separate images there to give that some dimension. And now you can add, I'm going to do dimensionals on this, depending on if you're sending it in the mail or if you're hand gifting it. Might dictate what you're going to use to put this together. I use 3 dimensionals on the side. And we only need the adhesive on the one side. And I've got my card closed up, and I want to center that. And you want that to be able to open, so we don't want the adhesive on that side. And now this little piece right here, this little purple strip that you've got, I'm going to show you from the catalog. When you see the pack of the DSP, you'll notice that there's one piece that has a watercolor stripe on it in the Blackberry Bliss. That's where I took these from. I follow the lines, they're all uneven, just like the watercolor should be, and I cut out these strips, and then we put the banner edges at either end. And that's what we used across the front. So again, I'm dimensionaling the poop out of this one. I'm going to put dimensionals on this guy. Loved the way all the layers just popped up off each other on the finished card. I'm going to put that across the bottom. And then I stamped 2 of the leaves from the stamp set right here. One in the Cajun Craze and one in the Crushed Curry. All that fussy cutting, I cut those out too. And I made my stampers do it. Oh my gosh, I think their hands were sore come the end of the night. And now I'm just going to pull over a piece of the grid paper, and you'll notice I've got snail all over this. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to snail all over the bottom. Get that off my finger. I'm going to put these 2 together. And then I'm going to snail some more on the bottom. It's going to get my paper dirty. It doesn't matter. I want lots of snail on there. Get that out of the way. And then I'm going to tuck this guy in so you can see some of the wheat behind. I'm going to tuck that underneath my banner. And they're still loose, so you could take your bone folder and you can round the edges on these so that they stand up. You could sponge the opposite color, so you could put the Cajun Craze on the edges of the Crushed Curry, really give it that fall crispy leaf look if you wanted to. Pull those up off the page. The possibilities are endless. I've got a little piece of the Mossy Meadow ribbon, and that's the ribbon from the In Colors that came out. I love this ribbon. It's beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back my grid paper again. I'm not keeping this under my project because it has all this snail all over it. And I know inevitably I'm going to put part of my project in the snail and then it'll be ruined. So just put a little bit of snail in here. I've cut, gosh, probably about a couple inches of a strip. Yeah. And I've put the banner edges on either end. So I've put some snail in the middle, and I'm just going to fold this over so that my edges don't match. I want to be able to see what I've done with my edges. Okay. Put a little bit of snail on the back of this again. Fold it over on me. Doesn't matter because I'm going to tuck it under anyway. Let's get that grid paper out of the way. I'm going to take this and I'm going to tuck this into the side here. I'm going to try to get that underneath my purple. There we go. Underneath my Blackberry Bliss. Sorry, my stampers will have a field day when they see this video. So they'll see that I'm calling the colors by their common names and not their given names. So we've got our ribbon on there. And then what I did was I took this banner in the crumb cake and I stamped that, and thankfully with the clear stamp set you can see exactly where you're stamping. So I put that guy on, inked him up in the Blackberry Bliss, and stamped over top. And I had these guys ready for my stampers so that all they had to do was cut out. There was a lot of cutting this stamp club, so I wanted to make sure that I prepped some of it for them so that they didn't have to do absolutely all of the fussy cutting. So I'm going to put a dimensional on either end of this guy. Nope. And then I'm going to tuck that over my ribbon so that you can't see my snail mess. Isn't that awesome how that works? You can hide everything. Now, another piece that we used were these lovely wooden embellishments. These are just, they're gorgeous. I love them. I'm being sparing with them, I'm finding. And I'm so in love with them. I don't want to use them all up at once. I want to save them for special projects. All of my club members got some though because they're just so fun to play with. So I'm going to use one of these little leaves, and I've got my glue dots here. I'm going to put a couple glue dots on, one on each end. And I'm going to tuck this leaf right on the corner. And then what I did is we used some of the gold buttons, and you can see that most of the small ones are gone because we used them on this project, the little tiny ones that are in here. So we took one of the gold buttons And what I did was I tied a bow in the linen thread, and then I used a glue dot to stick it on the front of that button. You can thread it through if you want. With this guy, the buttons were so small, they were a little finicky, so I tied all the bows in the linen thread for my stampers before I went to club, and then we just had to assemble because there was, like I said, so much fussy cutting. I didn't want them to have to do everything. So I have that all done. So I've got a glue dot on the back of my button. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that on my leaf. Now those strands are a little long for my liking. I'm going to snip those off a little bit, but it's completely up to you what you would want to do. And there you have it. Hello, fall. We still have a few days left of fall, don't we? Winter doesn't technically kick in till December, so this is still an in-season card, right? There you have it. All from the All Fall Things stamp set, the Color Me Autumn DSP that goes along with it, and a flip-flop card design. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope the steps were easy. Have fun making your own, and happy stamping!